Chattopadhyay from Harishchandra Research Institute, and he will speak on simultaneous 3-divisibility of class numbers of imaginary quadratic fields. Yeah, Chat, you may start.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for the introduction. And I would like to begin by thanking the organizers for giving me the opportunity to speak here. And I also acknowledge their effort to come up with the idea of organizing this wonderful math fest amid still this pandemic. So thanks for that too. So let's begin. So the title of my talk is Simultaneous 3-divisibility of class numbers of imaginary quadratic fields. So before we plunge into the main topic of this talk, let us begin with the notations first. So by K, we mean, an algebraic number field K, which is nothing but a finite extension of the field of rationals Q. And along with this K comes the ring of integers OK, which is the integral closure of Z inside K. And we denote the discriminant of the number field K by dk. And having said this, we have the class group CLK, which is an important invariant associated to the number field K. And it's a celebrated theorem from algebraic number theory that the ideal class group is finite. And the order of this group is known as the class number of K. So this class number actually measures the obstruction of the ring of integers OK from being a principal ideal domain. So in the sense that from the definition of the ideal class group CLK, it follows that the class group is trivial. That is to say that HK is 1 if and only if the ring of integers OK is a principal ideal domain. So at this point, it is natural to ask what are the number fields K for which the ring of integers is a PID or the class number is 1. But that's a very difficult question to address, as we will see in a moment. So beyond Q, because we know that for Q, the ring of integer is Z, and that's a principal ideal domain. So class number is 1 there. So beyond Q, if we go, so the next thing that comes is the imaginary quadratic fields. So Gauss asked for a complete classification of imaginary quadratic fields with class number 1. And it has been solved in the early 60s by the works of Higner, Becker, and Stark. So they gave a complete characterization of imaginary quadratic fields having class number 1. So these are given by the precisely 9 values of D, namely 1, 2, 3, 7, 11, 19, 43, 67, and 163. But surprisingly, if we ask the analogous question for real quadratic fields, then the situation drastically changes. So for imaginary quadratic fields, we know the complete characterization of imaginary quadratic fields having class number 1. But for real quadratic fields, it is still unknown, and it is famously attributed to the Gauss class number 1 conjecture, which asserts that there exist infinitely many real quadratic fields with class number 1. So for imaginary quadratic fields, we know the complete characterization, whereas for real quadratic fields, it's still unknown. So given any integer n, if we want to characterize the number fields having class number equal to n, that turns out to be very difficult, as we can see from the Gauss class number 1 conjecture, because to classify real quadratic fields with class number 1 itself is very difficult. So number theorists consider a weaker version of this question, namely the divisibility question. So instead of exact equality, we ask for, given any integer n, whether there exist finitely many or infinitely many quadratic fields with class number divisible by that integer n. So by the work of Nagel in 1922 and followed by the works of Ankeny and Chawla in 1955, we know that this question has an affirmative answer. So for any integer n bigger than or equal to 2, there exist infinitely many imaginary quadratic fields with class number divisible by n. And by Weinberger in 1973, we also have the result for real quadratic fields. So given any integer n, there exist both real as well as imaginary quadratic fields with class number divisible by n. Now, the interesting question is, what if we consider the divisibility question of more than one number fields taken together? So towards this direction, in 1932, Scholz gave this beautiful result. So he proved that if D is a positive square free integer and R and S are the three ranks of the ideal class groups of the real quadratic field Q square root D and the imaginary quadratic field Q square root minus 3D, then S is either R or R plus 1. So that is to say that if the class number of Q square root D is divisible by 3, then that of Q square root minus 3D will also be divisible by 3. And this result will be crucially used in the proof of our main theorem. So having said this Scholz reflection principle, if we combine this with Weinberger's result, which says that there exist infinitely many real quadratic fields with class number divisible by n, and if we just take n to be equal to 3, then we get this proposition that asserts that there exist infinitely many pairs of quadratic fields. One is real, Q square root D, and the other one is imaginary, Q square root minus 3D, such that the class numbers of all of them are divisible by 3. Now the question is whether we can replace this integer minus 3 appearing inside the square root here, or the integer 3 appearing as the divisor in the conclusion here by some other integer. So this question was considered by Komatsu in 2002, and he proved that indeed we can change this integer minus 3 by any non-zero integer m, and the divisibility question still has an affirmative answer. So precisely he proved that if we take any non-zero integer m, then there exist infinitely many distinct pairs of quadratic fields Q square root D and Q square root MD, such that 3 divides the class numbers of both of them. So the next challenge is whether we can replace the integer 3 appearing in the divisor by some other integer. So this question again was answered by Komatsu partially in the sense because he could consider only imaginary quadratic fields. So he proved that there exist infinitely many pairs of imaginary quadratic fields of the form Q square root D and Q square root MD, such that the class numbers of are divisible by n. So we don't have any analogous result for real quadratic fields here, if we ask the question of divisibility by some integer n other than 3. Okay, so whatever problems we have discussed so far, we see that the elements appearing inside the square root, they differ by a multiple of this D. So Iizuka recently considered a slight variant of this question where he considered instead of multiplicative shift of D by an additive shift. So precisely he proved that there exist infinitely many pairs of imaginary quadratic fields Q square root D and Q square root D plus 1, where the thing appearing inside the square root is an integer such that the class number of both the fields are divisible by 3. And he also conjectured that this phenomena is nothing special for 2 consecutive discriminants or the divisor 3, but it should hold for any prime number bigger than or equal to 3 and any consecutive, imaginary or real quadratic fields having consecutive discriminants where the discriminants vary along Z. So the precise statement of his conjecture was this. So we start with an integer m, which is bigger than or equal to 1, and a prime number L, which is bigger than or equal to 3. Then there are infinitely many tuples of real or imaginary quadratic field Q square root D up to Q square root D plus m with D belonging to Z, such that the class numbers of all of them are divisible by L. Okay. So we addressed a weaker version of this conjecture by Iizuka and proved the following result. So this is a joint work with Dr. M. Subramani. So we proved that if we start with a Q free integer k, which is positive and falls in the arithmetic progression congruent to 1 modulo 9, such that k is co-prime to 7 and 571, then there exist infinitely many triples of imaginary quadratic fields, q square root d, q square root d plus 1, and q square root d plus k square, where d is in Z, such that the class numbers of all the fields are divisible by 3. And to the best of our knowledge, this is the first result towards the direction of simultaneous divisibility, where 3 fields are being considered at a time. Okay, so let me just outline a brief sketch of the proof, how it goes. So to prove this result, we proved 2 parametric families of quadratic fields with class number divisible by 3. So for the first one, we considered an integer t, which is not divisible by 3. Then the class number of this quadratic field, q square root 3t times 3888t square plus 108t plus 1, that is divisible by 3. And note that here there is no restriction on the integer t as to whether it is positive or negative. So this quadratic field is in our control. We can make it real or imaginary, whatever we like, depends on t. Okay. So, and the proposition 2, this is about the class number divisibility of an imaginary quadratic field. So this says that if m is some positive integer, then the class number of q square root 1 minus 2916 m cube, that is divisible by 3. Okay, so in the remaining time, let me give an outline of the proof. So we start with a cubic polynomial that is parameterized by a variable t. So x cube minus 27tx minus k. So note that here the k is the fixed integer with which we started in the beginning. And by rational root theorem, we know that this polynomial can be reducible only for finitely many values of t. So we can choose a large enough positive integer t naught such that beyond mod t naught, ft is always irreducible. Now we look at the discriminant of this polynomial, which is 27 times 2916 t cube minus k square. And this is a kind of equation. If we want to look at for which values of t, d of ft becomes perfect square, then actually we are asking for the solution of 27 times 2916 t cube minus k square is equal to some r square. And by Ziegel's theorem on curves, we know that it can have only finitely many values of t for which this can be a perfect square. So again, we can fix some integer t naught prime beyond which the discriminant is not a perfect square. So we just set the integer capital T to be the maximum of these 2 integers just constructed, modulus of t naught and modulus of t naught prime plus 1, so that for any integer t which is bigger than capital T, the polynomial ftx is both irreducible as well as the discriminant fails to be a perfect square. So now we consider this simultaneous congruence. We will see in a moment why we are considering this. So here the moduli are 9 and k. So since k is assumed to be in the arithmetic progression 1 modulo 9, so these moduli are co-prime. So by Chinese remainder theorem, we know that there exists a unique solution x naught say modulo 9k. And then we consider this set, which is the set of all solutions x naught modulo 9k, and the integer is bigger than maximum of t and k. So we are considering this because at some point of time we will consider this parametric cubic polynomial ftx, which is irreducible and the discriminant is not a perfect square. All right. So having defined this set n, we are now looking at this expression 27 times n times 3888 n square plus 108 n plus 1. So remember, this is the expression that appeared in one of our parametric families that we have considered before. Now, if we read this expression modulo k by the hypothesis on k, we know that this is non-zero modulo k because we have assumed that k is coprime to 7 and 571 and k is 1 modulo 9. So it is obviously coprime to 3. Then for this choice of Tn, we consider the polynomial ftnx. And we see that this polynomial is irreducible and d of ftn is not a perfect square because Tn will be bigger than capital T. Now here comes an important application of a result of Lorentz and Natt that asserts that if we have an irreducible cubic polynomial whose coefficients satisfy some congruence relation, then the splitting field of that cubic polynomial over Q, that will be an unramified everywhere extension of the quadratic subfield Q square root dftn. So once we have an unramified extension, then we can embed it inside the Hilbert class field. And by class field theory, we know that the class number will be divisible by the degree, and that is here 3. So in this way, we get hold of a quadratic number field whose class number is divisible by 3. Now let us look at more closely how this d of ftn looks like. So if we plug the value of d of ftn, we get that
Yes,
the quadratic.
So,
Yeah.
can you please conclude your talk quickly?
Yes, sure. I'll just take just 30 seconds.
Okay.
Okay. So it just takes this form, and this is a real quadratic field. So by the Scholz's reflection principle, we get that after multiplying it with -3, we get hold of this imaginary quadratic field whose class number is also divisible by 3. Now, by the proposition 1 and 2 that we have considered, we get that the class number of Q square root minus Tn, which is 1 minus 2916 Tn cube, that is also divisible by 3. So by the choice of Dn equal to minus 2916 Tn cube, we get that the class numbers of all of them are divisible by 3. So this ends the proof, and these are the references. So our work was inspired by the first paper by Iizuka, and these are some of the references. Okay, that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. So is there any question?
Yeah, I have one. Yeah.
Yeah, you may ask directly.
Yeah. So what was the motivation behind considering the polynomial ftx, that one, like x cube minus 27tx? I mean, it seems, why did you choose that to begin with whatever you were doing?
Okay, so actually, if we look at the result by Lorentz and Natt that I have mentioned, I have written here. So this result basically tells you what are the conditions on the coefficients of the cubic polynomial so that the splitting field of this polynomial is unramified over the quadratic subfield. So we have to choose the coefficients in such a way that the conditions of this hypothesis of Lorentz and Natt's results get satisfied. So we had to consider the coefficient 27 for that to take care of some congruence condition and some weird conditions on this integer k, such as it is coprime to 7 and 571 and in the congruence class 1 modulo 9, just to satisfy the hypothesis of Lorentz and Natt's theorem.
Okay.
Because the only result we have been appealing to is the result of Lorentz and Natt and the class field theory result.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
I had a question.
Okay.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, so here this is, I mean, we can say that this is generalization of the result, that instead of there being a pair of class numbers, there is actually a triple of class numbers such that they are
Right.
divisible by some specific number. So,
Yeah.
I mean, can we, is it possible to think of a generalized result in which we say that there exists an n tuple of class numbers coming from some quadratic extensions such that they are divisible by a number?
No,
I mean,
actually, that's what has been precisely conjectured in the paper of Iizuka. So
Okay.
actually, we don't know. There have been works towards that direction, and that is the best thing we could come up with.
Okay.
So far, whatever results we had in the literature, that deals with only the pairs of quadratic fields.
Okay.
Maybe the conjecture is true, but that may not come in the way that we have followed, like starting with the cubic polynomial and then embedding that inside some unramified extension. But
Okay.
that's the result we have been using.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other question? Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, yes, yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, yes, please.
You see, there are applications of algebraic number theory to quantum information theory, particularly symmetrically informationally complete positive operator valued measures. And there are papers by Appleby, Bankson, Flaminga, and many people. And there is an expository article by myself on archive 1804.08100, and you can see section 3.4 in that of relationship between these things, and Fibonacci numbers and Lucas numbers occur in that. So I would like you to see if there are applications in quantum information theory the way I have told.
Okay, I will look at it.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, thanks, Jayatra.